computer. Recording in progress. All right. And we are live. Let me turn this off. Make this big. That's what she said. I heard that. I heard that laugh.
Oh, it's funny.
I swear, if I see one more person, anybody ever use Cigar bed? What do you know about it? Don't use Cigar bed, please.
Yeah, no. Or are you going to review any Pravada stuff? I'm like, no. There's a reason why I won't review Pravada stuff. It has nothing to do with me not liking Pravada. I don't review parody stuff because I don't want to ever be asked to take it down if there's a cease and desist.
Oh yeah,
that's God honest truth because it's happened. Like it's happened with trademark stuff, and you don't want to do that. So that's why I don't want to get in the middle of that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you. Totally makes sense to me.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah.
Don't get caught in the crosshairs.
Yeah. With policies, we're news. We're not like, and with news, it's reported. That's done.
Right.
So, yeah. So, but when you get into legal stuff, you don't want to get in the middle of that. So that's why I'm like, I stay away from it.
We have an interesting show. We have not been here for a while.
Yep.
I had to take a little trip down to the Carolinas, and it just couldn't really pan out the way my trip was going, so we decided to skip all the shows that week. And then I wanted to stay on schedule, so we decided to just wait till our next scheduled day. So after about a month, we are here.
Yep.
Yep.
And I had a bunch of medical stuff. Not anything serious, but back issue, and COVID vaccine. Both of those things were tons of fun. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm just about ready to go.
Yep.
You ready to do this?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Here, wait. Go. Hold on. Whoop. Sorry. Turn off the sound of the video stream. Coop twice in one day. I know.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokingTobacco.com. I am joined once again by my very good friend, Mr. William Cooper of Cigar Coop. And it is once again time for Spare Notes, as well as, or also known as Coop's Beef of the Week.
Yes.
As I properly presented today on the Cigar Authority.
Yes, you did. We're gonna talk about it because Dave man does his homework on Coop. I gotta say that
he does.
He
knows
did.
What's going on.
He pulled out a couple of things I didn't expect people to pull out. So he did a good job.
What are you smoking tonight?
Well, okay, so this was inspired by your appearance on there. So you guys had the whole Lancero discussion with Dave, right? Which was great, right?
Oh God, you're gonna smoke a Lancero.
and you mentioned yes, I'm smoking a Lancero tonight. And you mentioned that I had a #1 cigar of the year with a Lancero, which is true. Dave pulls out the Joel Sherman, right?
Right.
Which was my #1 cigar of the year, but it was not a Lancero.
Okay.
Okay. The one that was a Lancero was a Crux du Connoisseur, #2. And that's what I'm going to be smoking tonight. But the fact that Dave knew I had a #1 cigar with the Joel Sherman, that was like, wow. I was really impressed with that. With all he's got going on, right? Even if anyone pulls that out, I'm like, it was very impressive to me. So I felt like, well, let me smoke it tonight in honor of that. Because this is a Lancero I will tell people you must get in your hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm smoking a cigar that came from 90 miles south of Florida tonight. Special night. Partagas Serie E #2.
Ooh.
From Habanos.
Okay.
You heard it here, folks. Cuban tonight. I'm gonna light this up. I have a decent amount of Cubans in the house. I just don't really smoke them a lot.
I probably have less than you, but yeah, I have a few in backlog for review actually. I still do review some Cubans from time to time.
I just was kind of in the mood, and I figured, why not? It's been a while since I've had one. Draw's not too bad on this one. It's a little tight, but it's enough to smoke. So
yep,
we're gonna roll with it.
Yep.
Yeah, lots happened. I went down to the Carolinas.
Yep.
Took that week off. That was great. I want to give a quick shout out to the folks at the Tinderbox in Myrtle Beach.
Craig Cass's store. That's Craig Cass's store.
And want to thank them for the hospitality. There's a good group of guys down there, and man, I must have spent like 5.5 hours down there one day.
So we went to the one
out.
in the mall, right? The one on Broadway.
Broadway, yeah.
Yep.
No, it was a great time, great store, nice selection, nice people. Lots of great conversation. Like we always talk about, you go to a cigar lounge, you run into some great people, no matter where it is, no matter what lounge it is. It's very rare that you go into a shop and it's like, and one of my favorite movies is Almost Famous. And Penny Lane says in that movie, if you ever get lonely, just go to the record store and see your friends. And I use the same analogy.
To the cigar store.
To the cigar store. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
It's true. And it's so true.
Yeah. I don't get to that store. And the only reason I don't get to that store is because Craig's got the 3 stores up in Charlotte. Which,
right.
So if I go to Myrtle Beach, there's some other stores, but I do go there from time to time, and it's a great store. It's an extension of what Craig does up in Charlotte. And I think it's actually technically the extension, I think, is Myrtle Beach to Charlotte. Because I think that store is one of the oldest ones he's got. So, but yeah, Myrtle Beach. You went a good time of the year to Myrtle Beach. It's not as crowded, and
it's not as hot and humid, and it's not as crowded.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, we had January weather this week in the Carolinas. It was in the mid 40s the later part of this week, and that's January weather for us. So it was cold this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 40s, 50s up here right now. It's getting chilly, but we're not bad. We're luckily we have
right. That's like
it.
Yeah.
So we're thankful for that.
Yeah.
So obviously you weren't game this morning. Scoop with Coop. I was on the Cigar Authority today, so we did a little bit of double duty.
Yeah, I did the whole show this week, which was unusual.
Did you?
Well,
I didn't get to catch KMA today because I was up and I was getting ready to get up to New Hampshire and all that, so I didn't actually get to watch it yet.
So I don't normally do the whole show. I did it last week because Paul was out. This week we had Vincent Pastore, who plays Big Pussy Pompacero on The Sopranos.
Oh, nice.
Right. So they rearranged the show to do my segment early, and they said I could stay on for the rest of the show, which was really nice of them to do. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I always loved The Sopranos. I was a big fan of that show. I still am. I would say if you watch The Saints of Newark and you were looking for a extension of The Sopranos or like a Sopranos feel movie, that's not what was supposed to happen. So people who were like, "Oh, it sucked. It wasn't anything like The Sopranos. It wasn't supposed to be."
Yeah, I was a fan of the movie, by the way, but it's Aaron Loomis nailed it. He said to me, "You're a fan of that movie because you can relate to that period. You have a fascination with the early 70s, late 60s," and he's 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so. And I'll tell you what, Vincent was awesome on the show today. And it's an interesting segment. He stayed on for an hour, and you got to understand, like, we're spoiled in the cigar industry. We get these guys on for hour and a half, 2 hours or more, right? Most of these celebrities only will do about a half hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought we'd only have him a half hour. We ended up having the whole hour. He wanted to stay on, and you could see how he got more. He didn't know who the hell we were when we started, right? But he warmed up to us, and in that second half hour, it gets really interesting when he starts giving us singing lessons on the air. And
really,
yeah, and needless to say, he kicked me out of the class.
Wow.
Oh, he was awesome. He was like, "Yeah, I was pretty bad." That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
But he couldn't have been nicer. It was an honor. That, like I said, the other thing is you don't want to be the guy like. They already have 3 guys interviewing Vincent, right? So now you got the 4th guy, right? And that could be a little intimidating too, right? So I wanted to ask, I was going to ask to be on, right? I didn't have to because of the way it just worked out. They asked me to come on and stay for the segment, which was very nice of them. So.
No, I mean, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to check that out later. Like I said, I didn't get to catch it live, and
which is why I caught you later, because I couldn't get tuned into Dave because we were doing like some post-show stuff afterwards. But I did actually end up seeing your whole segment today, which is good.
Oh, really? Yeah, nice.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
did
made
see
sure
that.
you got plenty of airtime up there
Oh, you
too.
were very kind. Yeah, you were very kind. Yeah.
No, I mean we had a good time. Talking about kind of what we thought was hot, what we think is going to top the list, what was disappointing. It was interesting for sure. I would say I like to highlight more of what I thought was good from this year. I didn't have like a long list because I didn't want to make it too complicated for the
Oh, in a second you mention one person and you leave someone off. The
yeah.
way
So
this the way this industry is, they get very sensitive, particularly about this topic.
I wanted to keep it general, wanted to keep it light. So I just grabbed out a couple of names based on stuff that I personally
Yeah.
liked and what I thought was doing well on the market. Rocky Patel 60, I think, is up there. Rocky's
Oh,
due for a number one. I think he did a great job with
yeah.
that cigar.
Uh-huh.
It seems to be doing really well from what I hear from other retailers and what I see online, and just being well connected in the industry and what I see and hear. It seems to be performing well, and I liked it, and a lot of people I know close
Yeah.
to me liked it. So that was definitely a win for me. Um, Undercrown 10 I threw out too. I thought Undercrown 10
Very
could be
good.
a surprise winner too. I think
Yeah,
they did a great job with that cigar.
I do. I really like that cigar too.
It's a great
Um,
cigar.
yeah, that's a good one.
What would you add to that list so far?
Um, yeah, I want to add, but I want to kind of comment on your Rocky 60.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Rocky 60 hasn't been reviewed by me yet, but members of the team, the Coop team, have smoked it. Aaron Nielsen is super high on that cigar. It's one of the best cigars he's had this year. I think Rocky's been on a roll, and there will be Rocky Patel cigars on the Coop list this year. That one came out too late, but I'll tell you something. If you were today, the way things stand today, which is November 6th,
Hmm.
2021, the 60 will not be on the Cigar Aficionado list as of today,
Hmm.
only because it hasn't been reviewed. However, your point about Rocky, I think he's going to be one of the favorites this year. And I still think that cigar is going to get reviewed, especially if we see this cigar reviewed in November and then it's going to qualify for the list. I'm telling you, you're spot on about this. And it's a very good cigar. And I'm telling people, get behind some of the Rocky releases right now. There have been some really good stuff that's come out in the last 18 months or so.
Hmm.
So I have that one. The Coop list is kind of funny because the Coop list is more. It tends the deadline for releases is before the trade show. So I will say that one cigar that is really good that came out this year, and you mentioned it, was the All Saints St. Francis. Uh,
Yes, that's
yeah,
another one. Yeah,
that's a very
highly
good cigar.
ranked.
I think it's got a shot at the Coop list this year.
Made by
Uh,
Rocky Patel.
yeah, made by Rocky Patel. I think it's a very good cigar this year. You mentioned the Undercrown 10. I would definitely put that one in there as well. Um, Rocky's got another. I know I'm talking about Rocky. Rocky's got this release called the White Label coming out, right?
Yes,
And it's a Connecticut.
we
And
saw it at the trade show.
yeah, it's just about getting released. I smoked it, and it's another, like I said, fantastic cigar. That came out this year, and I think it's one to pay a lot of attention to right now. Because it's, in my opinion, it really was a standout of the trade show this year. Um, Couple of others that I'll mention. I'm just trying to make sure these are like kind of 21 releases. Um, I like that Buffalo 10 Connecticut by El Artista.
Yes, that was a
Really,
good one too.
really good cigar. Um, the Espinosa releases this year were all really good. The Laranja Azulejo, the La Bomba Warhead 7, and the 601 Black, uh, as well as this cigar called the Sarsaparilla. They're all really good cigars this year. Was quite impressed with those cigars. Um, Hot Cake. This is gonna be me sounding like I have my big ring gauge hat on, but the Hot Cake came out with a 60 ring line extension called the Grand Canyon,
Hmm.
which was fantastic. That Hot Cake is really good in the big ring gauge, is what I'm gonna tell people.
I haven't had that one, but I've had the previous releases, and I
Yeah,
loved them.
yeah. No,
Loved
I do
them.
I do too.
And would say there's no surprise as to why it's selling like hotcakes. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, certain sizes of hotcake didn't do it for me, but the number 4 and this size did it really well.
Yeah, I think it was the number 4 that I had most recently. That one just blew me away. It's
Yeah,
great. Great cigar.
I agree. And not to again kind of go on the big ring gauge thing. I have enjoyed the Immenso by Perdomo in the Maduro. I've been going with the 6x70 with that one. And I think it's a very, very good 70 ring gauge cigar that came out.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of releases still to hit the market before the end of the year. Like I said, anything with the coupe list, trade show stuff is not included this year. The deadline for release is right before the trade show. So you'll see a lot of late 2020 and early 2021 stuff on my list this year.
Tell you one that kind of disappointed me was the new size on the Slugger, the Big Poppy, the Slugger. I smoked one of those, and the construction was just not right. It just didn't burn right for me. I loved the original Toro release. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But that Slugger, the new one,
I
that came
have
out,
it. I haven't smoked it yet.
and I hate to throw like a negative shade on some, especially someone I really like. But that particular size just didn't do it for me.
See, that was blended originally to be a big ring age cigar, keep in mind, right? So they came out the Robusto. This is the Robusto size you're referring to.
Yes. Yeah, the Robusto, not the
Yeah.
other one. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why, and that's why the other one's the 60 that came out.
Right. That one came out first, then the
Yeah.
Robusto came out this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was a bad, and it's hard to knock something when you've only had one try.
Yeah.
But just so far, based on that one try, it let me down. It unraveled on me. It didn't burn right. I had to keep touching it up. I had to keep relighting it. It's in a humidor with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other cigars that do burn right. So, its conditions were right. It just fell apart on me. I don't know, and it didn't burn right. It burned a little. It burned a little hot at times, and just fell very out of whack. So I have to give it another go. But so far, that one was a disappointment. Another one we talked about, which was interesting, was Ferry Otago. Now, this is one that everyone's been talking about all year. I have had the Generoso, and I liked it.
That's the Nicaraguan one. That's the darker wrapper one.
The one made by Plasencia.
Yeah, it's a Plasencia one. Yeah,
I liked it. My thoughts smoking that cigar were, it's not as strong as I anticipated. It's a little more mellow. Lots of flavor. But it's smooth. I was getting like some leather, a little bit of spice. Nice flavors, complemented each other well. Good cigar. See, I want to talk about the price thing again, and I know it's been a little bit of a sensitive issue.
right.
Great cigar. Job well done. I don't think it's worth $21. Not because it's not worthy of it. It's a lot to ask for that cigar. I mean, and again, it's not that it wasn't very good. It was very good. But at $21, I mean, I'll be honest with you. My feeling is, like, even on the, I love Davidoff. I'm a big Davidoff smoker. Davidoff, being a higher price point cigar. These Davidoff cigars I love. They're great. I don't even think those are worth what they ask for them. It's more about the name.
Right.
But Davidoff's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And
They have.
I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. But like, do I think, some of those cigars are worth $27? No. But they're really good and I enjoy them. So I buy them because I can. But, same thing with Plasencia. Like, I love Plasencia's stuff, like the Alma Fuerte, the Colorado. Great cigar. That was one of the first ones I threw out there on the show today.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Plasencia's, they're priced a little too high. Like, I think that cigar goes for like $23.
Yeah. What I'll say is,
Colorado, but
yeah.
it's like a $15 cigar at best.
price doesn't affect getting on my list though. But I hear what you're saying. It doesn't
Just a
affect the
side
score.
note.
It doesn't affect the score. I've seen some people put score like price into the score, and I think that's not right.
No, I agree. And I'm not talking about the score. I just mean, just in terms of like overall my feelings on that particular cigar. So while we're here, it's like I mentioned it. But yeah, no, I mean, a score should be just based on the cigar, the flavor, the construction, the whole thing. Price is kind of like a secondary, like, well, this is what it costs. If this is, if you want to try it, you can get it here and blah, blah, blah. But like, I just think it's just worth mentioning.
Yeah. I have been very sour on the limited edition market in 2021. I think it's been horrendous, right? And it's really sour. I really just get this cautious eye when I want to smoke another limited. It's that bad. What I'll say is Otago. I have gone through an initial smoke with them. I don't know where it's scoring. It is one of the better limited editions to come out this year. The problem is when I look at the Elegancia and I compare it to the Sterling and Joel Sherman, no. It's not a Sterling or the Sterling or Joel Sherman, which I think is the pinnacle of what the Otago brands have.
Right.
The Generoso, same thing. I think that I'd still kind of go with a Timeless as one of those TAA cigars that was really good. They did. I don't quite put it up there with those yet either. But that being said, and I think Mike's got a very good portfolio with Otago. So
he does.
But that being said, like it's one of the better limited editions because that unfortunately it's been a terrible year for limited editions this year. It's been horrendous.
Limited editions have been an interesting topic. We've talked about it before. I mean,
we have talked about. Yeah,
there's been a lot of them.
Yeah,
and and that was one of the things like that got brought up today on the show. Was like I say Otago, and then the guys are like, "Oh, limited though."
See, I don't agree with Dave's definition of limited. Okay, because every cigar is limited. Okay, in production in the end, right?
Technically,
so I think, for example, like Aladino Corojo Reserva is a limited production. It's not a limited edition. So, but every cigar, Exaco will tell you, every cigar has a limited production cap, right? Some are just higher than others. So I don't know how that's. I can see one and done. If you want to eliminate one and dones, that's okay, right? But I think Otago is limited production annually. So I think it's something that will be available now and in the future. So why wouldn't it be eligible, in my opinion?
Right.
If it was a good cigar and you like it.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter like how it's available, whatever. I mean, if it's an official release that is available on any store shelf, at some point in time, that a consumer can come in and purchase and take home and smoke. Therefore, it should be eligible because it still should be reviewed. It can still be rated. It can still be selected for, wow, this was a great release. It still came out. Look, if you give a cigar like that, cigar of the year, it's going to be even harder to get.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it doesn't deserve the recognition. I would agree.
Right.
And I think a lot of the publications who give out cigar of the year or whatever, even just in the ratings and the reviews, they don't let that get them down, because in the end, I really don't think that it matters. The cigar is still going to perform how it performs, regardless of how widely available it is. So again, that's another caveat. I agree. I don't think that should really come into consideration for anything on its availability. And unless it's like, what's that one that Gurkha makes for like $1 million?
Oh, the Maharaji, whatever it is.
Yeah. Like something like that. Like I'd be like, all right, like most people are not gonna fucking buy that. Like, because they can't.
Yeah.
So I would not put that anywhere, because it doesn't make sense, because 95% to 99% of your readers are going to be like, I'll never have that. So what's the point? But I think that we've seen an increase in limited productions. There's some manufacturers who've done a lot of limited productions, and they put a lot of focus on it, not so much on their core line. And that was something that we talked about kind of post show. No names mentioned, but the conversation we had was, well, the problem with that is you keep doing that, and then you start to lose focus on your core line.
Oh, it's even look, I think that happened to Pete Johnson a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When he was doing all these store exclusives and stuff, right? Which I don't think store exclusives belong on a cigar of the year list because ultimately they're too limited in distribution. It's more localized, and it's hard to cover the whole gamut of all the store exclusive releases. There's releases that you may not know about, right?
Right.
And ultimately it favors the big retailers who push the marketing on. But that being said, yeah, I see a lot of companies. What's an easy way to make a buck? I can sell 300 cigars to this store, right? And look, in most cases, we've talked about this as well. They're not. It's not. They're not going to the drawing board and creating this cigar. It's something that's already in the factory, or it's something that they have in production that they want to sell. So that's how that works.
Right. No,
So
I agree. We kind of talking about too the comment that was made on why manufacturers don't disclose information on a podcast.
I got a lot to say on that. Yeah.
And we can kind of segue right into that with that
Yeah.
kind of comment. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you take that one. Even though I was present for when the comment was made, I'm gonna let
Yep.
you roll with it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay. So what I learned very early on, right? When I joined Stogie Geeks, I wanted to have that show where we were going to break information on new releases and, to do that, right? Well, there were two problems with that. One is the manufacturers didn't want to do it, right? And the second thing is people really don't care, right? They're not going to tune into a podcast and be kind of dangled like, oh, I'm going to find out about this. They'd rather go on their phone and do, look at it that way, right? So I learned really that wasn't a good approach. Now, why won't the manufacturers do it? Is there are two reasons. Okay, I'll give you the less controversial one first, and then I'll give you the controversial one. The less controversial one is sometimes the stuff is half baked. And they're about to go into production. They're maybe going into production. They're not comfortable with a release date. They're not comfortable maybe that the blends are going to turn out okay. I know, like for example, Dion from Illusione. He doesn't like talking new cigars until he has them in his hands, right? That's
Right.
how he is, right? So and he's explained that to me, and he talked to me at the trade show this year about that, right? So people want to be real careful. They go onto a podcast if they say something, maybe the trademark thing isn't resolved, right? Or maybe they still have to do that. A lot can go wrong with that. So I think certain manufacturers are a little gun shy to do that, right? And I understand that. Now, then you get to the case though where you have the stuff pretty much everything's baked, right? And the reason why they don't want to do it is because of Pope Marvin. You know who Pope Marvin is?
Marvin Shankin of Cigar
Marvin
Aficionado.
Shankin, because Cigar Aficionado, they are afraid of Cigar Aficionado. Either they've made a deal with Cigar Aficionado, and they basically have been, they're under Cigar Aficionado's control with that, where Cigar Aficionado is going to control it. And the other reason is that they want to get Cigar Aficionado's favor, so they don't they don't want to piss them off. And so what happens tendally is if you want to get like new release stuff on a show, they'll throw you a scrap like, hey, we got this 50-box release for store X, Y, and Z in Missouri. That's what they'll do. And to me, I guess it's not worth it, right? But I'm telling you, the aficionado thing is real, and I will tell you that that's a reason for a lot of times to do it. I don't fault anyone for asking. I don't make it the focus of my showing, but I can tell you that's aficionado, and I'm not afraid to say that on the air because it's the truth.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been told we can't have stories citing a blackout of information or an exclusivity arrangement. We've been told. I've been told this. So
that's like, a lot of times, there's certain people, and and I won't reveal names, but we'll see stories go out on Cigar Aficionado, and we'll text each other like, hey, did you hear anything about that? Nope. And then as soon as we communicate and it's already been out on Aficionado, all of a sudden we get the email at the same time. Oh, I just got it. Oh yeah, me too. Boom.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so Aficionado got it first. And it's like,
yeah. And going on, I don't fault Dave for asking that. Like, I think it's his job to ask.
Yeah,
it's his job and anyone's job to ask that. But I can tell you that that's the reason. Those two reasons I just gave you are why no one wants to talk about this stuff on podcasts.
Well, since we're on the topic of Pope Shankin.
That was mean what I just said. Pope Marvin.
Pope Marvin, or whatever you said. It's when we were talking about, like what they would give number one this year. There was a comment that was made by Barry Stein, which was very interesting, about could it go to Cuba. Anyone who knows Marvin Shankin, if you follow cigars enough, will know he has a huge affinity in his heart for Cuba.
He does. Yep.
He's done interviews with Fidel. I mean, is a big part of Cuban cigars that have a lot of love for him, and Cuban cigars have been on that list, topped out list. They've dominated in the ratings. But it's been a while since a Cuban cigar did get number one at Cigar Aficionado. Now,
2013. Yep.
You remember what it was?
Yep. Monty
was
number
it?
two.
Which
was a fantastic year for the Monte Cristo number two if you're smoking Cubans. No one would have disputed that. If you smoked enough of those, no one would have argued that. With all due respect to Rafael Nadal, got number two. That Nani number two that year out of Cuba was fantastic.
Now, would you say that maybe Cuba's due, or do you think that, given what we know about Cuba, you think that they are definitely falling from grace on those high-ranking lists?
So I think that Cuba's due, but I don't agree with Barry's logic with that, is what I'll say.
Okay.
Because his logic was about supply chain stuff.
Mhm.
Was that what he was? I'm trying to.
Kind of, yeah.
Have you seen the Cuba supply chain issues in Europe? There's empty shelves in all the cigar
they can't
stores.
get them.
They can't get them, right? So then, believe me, I understand what Barry's saying. Okay, this would be the year not to piss off the, it wouldn't piss the U.S. people as much. I think it would piss them off worse if they gave it to a Cuban when there's not even Cubans making it to the shelves. I think that will create enough. So I don't think that's. I do agree that there is a Cuban is due. So we shall see. I'll say this: anytime Cigar Aficionados picked the Cuban, which was the Bolivar, the Behike, and the Monty number two, they were really good Cubans. I'm not saying they got it right, but they were really good Cubans that came out those years.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and the thing with Cubans is they can either be really good or they can be really bad.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Either they're good or they're not.
Yeah. Habanos will normally get about 3 cigars in the top 25. Is kind of what when we do our bracketology. Some years it's been 4, some years it's been 2. So, but it usually is that average is about 3 they'll get on there. So it comes down to which one it's going to be. And that's a little hard to do because we don't smoke Cubans on a regular basis. So it's always hard to predict which Cuban it would be.
I feel like when it comes to the top 25, there's a few usual suspects. They maybe they're number one, maybe they're not. But there's usual suspects. There's always a handful of Cubans, right?
There is, and we do a bracketology show every year, and we know that there's certain spots that unlocks for certain companies, and it reduces the amount of spots available. Once you factor the Cubans in, and there's usually about 12 or 13 companies that have a slot that are like locks. There's only about 4 or 5 slots that most of the general cigar company population is competing for, which is kind of interesting.
And there's always an Opus X on that list.
There's always a Fuente on that list.
There's always Fuente. It's either like an Opus X and like a Don Carlos, or it's something like that. But there seems to always be like an Opus and then another Fuente of some variety. So there's 2 spots right there.
Right. Fuente sometimes gets 2, right, because they separate Opus X out.
Right.
Same with Altadis kind of gets that too.
Altadis is another one.
Yep. But you can.
So really, once you take those, my point being, once you take those few companies that are always guaranteed spots,
you know who has a guaranteed
and you boil
spot?
it down,
Yeah.
You got how many spots are left for everyone else to just try to win into?
Yeah. You know who's been able to hold their spot every year is LaFleur. And a lot of times they come in lower, but they've been able to hold the slot. They've been able to have a slot every year. They don't miss it.
No.
So,
which is interesting because, as much as John might not like me saying this, because it kind of sucks to say, and I don't ever like saying it, it's no secret LaFleur's had a difficult time supplying their cigars to retailers. And a lot of retailers I talk to, I walk into a cigar shop, whether it's people I know or I don't, whether I'm traveling, whatever. And they go, oh hey, yeah, oh yeah, the show. And John Carney like, hey, well, when am I gonna get more LaFleurs? Like they asked me, like I'm supposed to know. I'm like, I don't talk to him about that shit. That's his business, not
Yeah,
mine.
that's yeah.
But it's also I know about it, and it's true. We all do. It's like one question that people always bring up every time LaFleur comes up. Well, when am I gonna get more cigars?
Yeah.
Um,
It's been like
and
that for 3 or 4 years right now. It's been a long
and
time.
that's an issue that John and the Gomez's have to work on
Yeah.
internally, and they have a lot of reasons for that too. And it's not easy. I mean, they want their cigars out there, so it's not like they're not doing a good job. They're doing the best they can. And it's difficult, especially with last year. I mean, last year, really crippled a lot of people just with production. But
Yeah.
so to see them having the issues with the supply that they have, doing the best that they can, but still being able to maintain slots like that, that's a win in my book. That's a big win.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot said that they're doing all these small batch releases right now for Coleman, but they're very small batch releases, is what I'll tell people. They're not like major productions they're doing here.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is the stuff that John's doing at events, which is
Right.
very, very, very exclusive stuff. It's not like a limited release. It's like
it
if
is,
you're at the party, you get one. If not, like that's it.
and they need that. That's they're basing a lot of their business model on these events right now. So it's important to have those. I don't fault them for putting those out. I think ultimately people just want to see some more of the get their diggers in and stuff like that, and I think they'd be a lot happier.
Diggers, DL 700 Maduros.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's the core stuff, and that's a big the core stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
My only fear for LaFleur would be like losing your regular LaFleur smoker. Like let's say someone smokes L300s or whatever else, whatever they're smoking, and their local cigar shops can't get them for whatever reason, because they have issues with getting their supply out, and then that regular smoker moves to something else and then goes, oh, I like this better actually, and then they come back in.
That's exactly.
And it's like, oh well, I already moved on to this, and it's
yeah.
And that sucks for LaFleur, and that hurts. They lose a customer, and I never want to see that. So
yeah, it's very important because you just nailed that, Matt. That's it's hard to get a core line to that level, right? People work many years for that, and it could be lost very quickly if suddenly you can't get it. I mean, look, I remember for a while it was getting tough to get some of the AJ Fernandez New Worlds, and I remember my son was people come in, okay, what else can you give me to smoke? So they could get hooked on that, and suddenly you lose that core smoker in there.
What is it that Nick Perdomo says? It's 10 years to make a customer. It's like 10 seconds to lose them.
100%. Right. And look at why Nick's so successful. He's given attention to the core lines, and they focus on those core lines, the ones that people are smoking. And I know Arthur pays very close attention to that. And this is why he's so successful. And you know what? It's that his product is the products people want are he's making sure they're available. I think he does an amazing job with that. But that expression couldn't be more true.
There's an interesting comment here from our friend Mark, who says LFD has had problems shortly after they got aficionado #1 with the Andalusian Bull.
It never was right.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, and that's the thing, and that's been talked about before. Getting #1 is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. You get #1. It's a great feeling, but also your stock goes up.
Yeah,
and everyone has to have it, and then you can't keep up with production and the demand. It's now it's like, well, everyone wants it. So.
Absolutely, very.
And then it becomes something that you can't even get.
Yep.
And there's a lot of great cigars out there that are hard to get, that are very desirable for that reason. I mean, it's something that everybody wants it. You know what I mean? And when you have something like that, I mean, whether it be cigars, or even look at what the bourbon industry is going through right now with their boom. I mean, 10 years ago, you could walk to any liquor store and you could get Pappy 15 at retail in the lock case. You could, if you really wanted it, you could spend the $100, get it, go home. Now you can't even find it to pay $1,000 at an insane markup, because it's just not even there. It's the same thing. Someone says, oh, this is great, everyone's got to have it, and then it's something that it's made on a smaller scale, and now like everyone that is a customer of anything is just trying to buy it, Um, and it's insane. And then you look at like secondary markets, and people buy them all up when they find them, and they hoard them, and then they try and flip them for like 4 times the price.
Yep.
You see it online a lot too. People, selling, opuses and limited stuff from like Roma Craft, and sometimes I see Andalusian Bull, and I get it, but it's like, unfortunately that's what happens to the highly desired things. It turns into a secondary flip game.
Yeah, it does.
Which is tough, for people who really enjoy it.
It's true. It's true.
As we talk about getting to the end of the year, it'll be interesting to see. We can speculate all we want to, but it'll be interesting to see, just how it all does shake down for 2021. 2020 was kind of a weird year because of everything that happened, but
Yeah.
2021, I'm really excited to see how everyone else shakes out too. Whether it be, you, the print guys, the content, Cigar Authority's got the Contenders. I'm really interested to see how everyone really shakes down, and to see, who people did think was the best.
Yeah. Just another thing I heard too on that today. They were talking about Contenders. They haven't been included on the consensus.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they haven't been included, and I noticed because Bear, who does his own list, is not included either. Is because they don't include anyone or anything with retail connection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not because they don't have a 1 to 8 or whatever. Because Charlie will actually, there's some people who do that like them, and Charlie has a way of massaging the data to make that work. He excludes them because it is a retail connection.
Mm-hmm.
Same like Bear worked at a retailer, and he's pretty strict on that. I've talked to Charlie on that. We've had on the show. He's very clear on that. He doesn't, if there's a gray area, he doesn't go there. So that's why it's not. But they have a big influence with that Contenders pack. I get confused with a little how they do it sometimes. I keep meaning that state because I keep hearing it's consumer driven, but then I hear they decide it somehow. But it still seems like it's a sales thing in the end. How that comes down to, I guess, because they keep talking about how you buy what you want, which is an interesting way to do it. So I'm not sure how it works. I guess it's a combination of things. It sounds like, right?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand how it works,
it's a cool system. I mean, I'm not. It's like I'm always fascinated what they're going to nominate and what wins. I've guessed it the last couple of years correctly. I did think the Perdomo was going to win it last year with them.
I thought that was a great cigar. It was deserving.
It was deserving. It's going to be on the Coop list this year.
Yep.
Yep. It was a deserving cigar. I agree. They got it right with Aladino a few years ago. They got it right with that Generoso leaf Connecticut, which was really good too. Of what they nominated, cigar. Yeah, I think they've had a couple. They had a little. I remember there was a little jinx they had for a while. And I'll say it here. So they picked Hammer and Sickle Icon one year, and it got renamed to Trademark. And then they picked, which was a really good cigar. I'm surprised they didn't make it the BG Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
That was from Davidoff. That one went away. And then they picked the Scott Weeks' cigar, the Recluse Habano, which was a great cigar. But Recluse has kind of just disappeared as well. It's really hard sometimes, but they've picked good cigar. They have really picked good cigars, I think. So I can't argue what they're picking is really good stuff.
Right.
They seem to get it. They seem to get a lot of these, right. But they had a little bit of a bad luck thing too with that, unfortunately. I had it too. Like Dave mentioned, the Joel Sherman went. Yeah, it went away. It totally. Nat Sherman went away. So yeah, I've had my share of those as well. So El Diario by La Polina is gone now too. That was another number one I had. So it's happened to me definitely as well. Another
one that I forgot to mention on Cigar Authority, and I brought up after the show with the guys, and I got some mixed. I think Barry kind of saw it and nodded with me.
Mm-hmm.
Dave didn't really think so.
Uh-huh.
And that was the American from J.C. Newman, which you gave
Cigar of the Year.
You gave Cigar of the Year last year.
It was polarizing with a lot of people. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're not the only ones. There were a lot of people who did not like that cigar, and a lot of people who love that cigar.
I thought it was great, and I could see that being picked for a Cigar of the Year. And listen, just because this is here, that doesn't mean shit.
No.
The reality is, I thought it was a great cigar, good production, good story, good purpose. The whole package
Yeah.
was great.
But Matt, here's why Vitola is really important with a cigar of the year. In the Toro, that was the size I gave cigar of the year. I could have gave it to the Churchill size. The Robusto size, no way. Okay, the Robusto size I didn't like. I'm gonna be completely honest on that.
Okay.
That's why I think Vitolas are so important on these lists. Because here's the thing: if I said the American was the cigar of the year, and someone goes and picks up that Robusto, and they come back to me and they say, "Coop, what the?" And I have to say, "Oh, you gotta get this size, right?" That's why I tell people who are doing lists, be Vitola. The dojo guys and I have disagreed on it. Be Vitola specific. You need to be. It's for your own credibility on that, because you don't want someone pick. You don't want to say, "Oh, there's really one size that isn't good there," or "There's only one good size." I mean, that's why I'm emphatic on that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people's lists are not necessarily specific to what just came out this year.
Mine isn't
So-
really, yeah. So it's
So there are lists out there where some of those sizes, would still be eligible and could still win.
Yeah.
Regardless of, whatever. In the Churchill could still win this year. The Toro could still win this year. I had the Toros, and that's what I had, and I thought they were great.
They're fantastic. That's cigar.
I
Yeah.
love them. I think you were spot on with that.
It's so unique. The flavor you get off that is so unique. But yeah, the Robusto is gonna smoke very different, and I'll tell you that straight out if you haven't smoked it.
Now, I'll tell you two that I, as much as we're talking love for certain brands, there's two that I have. I only mentioned one today on the show, just because I forgot the other one. But I didn't forget it. I just didn't really get a chance to bring it up. But I had two. The first one I mentioned was kind of like a good and bad, but we're gonna stick with just the bad for this sake. El Septimo. Listen, I have some of them. I smoked a couple of them. I thought it was put everything else aside, just smoke the cigar. It was a good cigar. It was nice. I don't think that they're gonna get a cigar of the year out of that.
No.
I
I
don't
have to
see that
smoke-
happening.
Yeah. I agreed with. I don't know if it was Dave or Barry or you who said it. I agreed
Barry
on the
said
pack.
it.
I agree on the packaging thing with him.
Barry said it. I knew exactly where you were going with that, and it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
You
he's
look
right.
at
You'll
them.
have-
You look
Yeah.
at them. You line them all up.
Yeah.
They have different colors,
Yeah.
but like they all look the fucking same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
and
hard.
they-
Like, well, which one did you have?
yeah.
I had the orange one. Someone who
Yeah.
doesn't know the inventory that well would be like, okay, And there's, I believe there's two different orange ones,
Yeah.
so it's like that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah. They need
They
a
look
brand
like this.
ambassador.
They look like this.
Yeah.
They got to work on that. They
Yeah,
got
they
to
need
make
a
it
brand
more
ambassador.
identifiable. And that's
They
my
need to
beef.
also-
No,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. They need to work on that, and they need a brand ambassador to educate people on the blends.
That's like one beef I have with Tatuaje. I love Tatuaje, but like some of his stuff, like the black label and the brown label, like it's just so fucking simple. Like you don't know what it is half the time. That was my issue getting into Tatuaje in the beginning. Was like I didn't know what the fuck was what. Like you got the story in the box. It's on the box.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You grab the singles. You go home, right? And then you're like, oh, Tatuaje. Just brown band says Tatuaje. I don't know what this is. And you smoke it, like, wow, it's great. I go back, I go, and I look
It's-
for that box. It's gone. I go, hey, you guys saw that Tatuaje brown label, like kind of long? Which one? It was like a Churchill with a brown label. Which one? I don't know. It was good.
I think Pete's addressing a few of these things in the portfolio now, like how he's doing reservas and things like that, which were very confusing.
Mhm.
It's hard to tell which was coming out of Nicaragua, which was coming out of Miami. I remember when he re-released the black label, he kind of upgraded the bands a bit, made them a little more embellished.
A little
And
bit, yeah.
And I think if he did that with each of those, I think it would be a real nice touch
I have my
for
box
those
with me
lines.
here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm grabbing
yeah.
props.
Because you're right. These are incredible cigars. So that's
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Tatuaje brown label Reserva.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great, but there's some of them that don't even have this. The Reserva band.
Yep.
They're
just have-
just Tatuaje. And you're
Yep.
like, wow. And you're like, well, you'll have it. And you're like, oh, it's a great cigar. And you go to buy it again, and then you go in there and you just see that.
Yeah.
You're like, is that the same one?
Yeah.
It looks the same, doesn't have the other band. It gets confusing. Now, some people like us, we can figure it out, whatever, ask questions. But some people might not be as successful. I try to think a little bit more like, I don't want to say dumb it down, but like you just try to think like someone who just walks in, who doesn't know as much about, brands or whatever, who are just trying to buy a cigar that they really enjoy. And they get a little confused, and maybe they don't know what's what. And I feel for those people because it does get confusing. It gets confusing for people like us who are in shops all the time.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'll say this: Fuente has a similar problem with some of their core stuff.
Yeah, with their core stuff.
It is confusing with the ribbons. I'm not gonna lie. That's the one thing I wish they would make that a little easier.
It's interesting when they came out last year with the Naked Kings, right? This is a good example of Fuente.
Yeah.
They came out with the Naked Kings last year, right? And now, those of us who smoke Fuente a lot, like myself, like we knew what the Naked King was. There was people out there that literally thought that was a brand new cigar.
Yeah,
and it wasn't. All it was the Chateau King without the tube.
Yeah,
that's all it was. Naked King. People were like, "Oh, it's a new cigar." Naked King.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, they're even when they give out press information, and if you ping Liana and stuff, we can get it, right?
Right.
But it's also very high level, and they don't want to get into the weeds with a lot of stuff sometimes. So even if you're like a new media guy, you might not know to ask that question.
Exactly.
Yeah, unless they told you that was the case.
Even on the Casa Fuente stuff, right? Now, me and you have been going to Vegas for years and actually going to Casa Fuente and getting Casa Fuente at the store. This release that they just did, right? A lot of people who've never been able to go to Las Vegas and go to Casa Fuente are seeing Casa Fuente for the first time because they've never experienced that before. Because up until that release, it was only available at Casa Fuente. So if you never go to Vegas, you've never been there, you never had Casa Fuente unless someone got it for you or whatever. What's interesting?
Yeah,
I think I only have one on me. It's funny.
I just picked up some. I actually was able to pick some up with this round.
So
and there's two blends. People forget there is actually two blends.
So this is one of them.
Yep.
The darker wrapper with the gold ribbon.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't know, there's also another cigar, which I believe is Cameroon, with the orange wrapper.
Right.
I mean, with the orange ribbon.
And the other was a dark Habano, I believe.
Or right.
Yeah.
But they're different. Now, they all just say Casa Fuente, and then they have different colored ribbons. If you're not someone who's familiar with Casa Fuente, like we are, you're just going to go, Casa Fuente. And then you're going to be like, oh, no, it's the other one. Which other one? There's also the 805 series.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's the confusing banding and packaging and all that, where it seems a little generic.
Yeah, it is. It
definitely is an issue.
It definitely is. Yeah, I even say with Padron has the same issue. It's especially with some of the 64s with the natural and the Maduro. It's hard to tell. I mean, unless you look at the box and it has that sticker that says Maduro on it.
And sometimes, like especially when we talk about Padron, right?
Yeah.
Great cigars, but sometimes that color shade on that wrapper, in certain lights and certain times, if it's not side by side, you look at it and you go, and you almost like, I can't tell.
Yeah, and guess what? In my humidor, it's a pain in the neck. They're not celloed, right? So I have to put Post-its, where it's not obviously on the humidor, not touching the cigar, obviously, and that's a little bit that I've had to do that too. So I think it's a little, it's interesting, that they have that issue.
I'm just getting caught up in the comments here. Someone reported there's a sound needs to be turned up a bit for us old guys. I mean, I can certainly turn up my gain a little bit, but
my gain's maxed.
I don't want it to be
almost max.
I don't want to be too loud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll turn it up a little bit.
Yeah. The sound police is out tonight.
That wasn't even on our list. That whole confusion with packaging.
No, I know. That's
But
what
it's a very interesting topic that you don't hear people talk about a lot. And again, it's nothing bad against those manufacturers.
No,
those
it's
cigars.
not at
those
all.
cigars are great. If anything, it's because those cigars
Yeah.
are good. And for the average guy, they're like, "Wow, that was great." And then they come back and they go, "Wait, which one is it?"
Yeah. So Mark saying that the Naked King had a different wrapper. That I'm not sure. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know the answer to that, Mark. So you maybe I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah, I don't.
See, that's
I
where
don't know if I agree with that either.
That's where I'm getting confused. I get confused right away on that.
See, I don't know about that. I was under the impression that they kind of tried to spin their shortage with tubes by making this whole Naked King release and trying to spin it a little bit. I think, if I remember correctly, I don't know if it was a confusion, but I thought I heard someone say that they tried to spin it like a new release without actually saying it, but then people kind of caught on.
Right.
I don't remember, so I don't want to be quoted as saying that.
Yeah.
I thought there was something about that, but all I know is what it boiled down to is it was just, it wasn't boxed and tubed.
Yeah.
They were released in, I think it was a 15 or a 10 count, zipper bag, Fuente zipper bag, I think is how they got shipped. And again, because there was a lot of casualties with packaging manufacturing last year with the pandemic. So it's our largest thing. Andalusian bulls were coming out in bundles. I know I had a couple of them.
Yep.
I went into two guys' smoke shop with Carney while he was visiting me. And I said, yeah, let's swing by the shop. And we went in and they had some bulls and I grabbed a couple bundles and I was like, oh. And I kind of gave him a hard time and he was just like, bro, our box factory's closed. And yeah, it was just weird. And I was like, no, I don't give a shit. I mean, I'm still going to smoke it. It's still a cigar. But I just remember it being funny. Like, I'm buying bulls by the bundle.
I'm okay with that as long as I don't see cartoon bulls on there. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it
okay
was
with the standard logo. But if I start seeing the cartoon bulls, the comic book bull, I'll get upset.
Cy Sweeney is with us.
Sizes.
Padron and our series smokes are very similar in look. I mean, yeah, they do. They can be a little similar looking, and there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of different cigars that if you don't really know them really well, quickly just trying to grab something, you might mistake it for something else. So yeah, it gets tricky, because you want to make sure you grab them the specific cigar that you want to smoke.
Yep.
Not to say that maybe you grab something that you grab the wrong thing and that's not good too. That happens too. You find, oh, well, this is actually not that, but it's still like it. So that happens. But yeah, we didn't have this one on our list, but I'm glad we kind of meandered into it.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Yeah, like I said, I learned some stuff. Yeah, like I said, Mark saying the King had a Rosado wrapper, the original. But I don't know. I mean, it's good. I'm gonna actually do some research on that myself.
Yeah, Mark, we're gonna look into that because I don't know. I didn't think so, but I'm gonna look into that and find out.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, moving on from that. Looking at the list, disappointments for 2021. Well, actually, we started to go there. We got sidetracked.
There's some disappointments. Did you guys? I don't think you guys got it. I was hoping you guys were gonna get into like the year as a whole was disappointing. Like there were some good releases, and there's certainly some that are gonna be on the top end of year list, right? But as a whole, this was if I don't want to hear that never a better year for cigars this year.
You know what I didn't like? Casa 1910, the Mexican Puro, the orange band. Didn't like it.
I smoked it. I didn't think it was bad. I may be trying to, but it's a show sample, so I don't put much into show samples either. So
I know some retailers who told me that they went into it like really wanting to like it. They heard the story, they see the presentation, they see the fucking packaging. They're like, wow, this looks awesome. This looks like it'd be a great thing. And they tried it and they're like, I can't do it. I can't bring that in if I don't feel good about how it tastes. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So
but there were people liked it. Yeah. There were people at the show liked it.
Right. No, I know. But for me, my personal list of disappointments, it's on there.
Yeah.
But again, it's subjective, which is fine. That's why we're here. But for me, that's a disappointment for the year.
So here's an interesting thing about Casa 1910 at the show. They're a company from Mexico, right?
Yep.
They haven't officially even launched yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's another Mexican company that was at the show, Casa Turrent, right? And I think everyone knows who the Turrents are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'll say this: Casa Torrent has excellent cigars. Like they really make some good Mexican cigars. Nobody was talking about Casa Torrent at the show. They were all talking about Casa.
Got a lot of San
1990.
Andreas tobacco.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that Casa Torrent just doesn't make any effort to talk to anybody. It seems like they don't have a strong field team. They don't talk to the media, and they get no attention. And they have really good cigars. I mean, they desperately need to up the game. I think because the product's there.
Trade show or not, who else let you down?
General had a really disappointing year for me this year. They had, I mean, I thought I was not a fan of the Cohiba Serie M. It was a $30 cigar that had
Didn't like it.
It had construction problems for $30 cigar. I can't like, what can I say? It's supposed to be some people liked it, but I had atrocious construction problems with it.
Can I be honest with you while we're on this topic?
Right.
And I don't want to knock General just like to knock them, whatever, but like every Cohiba that I've had has been a letdown for me. The red dot, the blue, and I've given them multiple chances too.
Well, no, actually, I've had Cohiba on my list a few times as a brand, like so on my end of year list. I agree, the blue was a miss. That's not a Cohiba in my book. They put something and put a Cohiba band on it, right? But so General's done very well on the Coop list over the years. One brand that's done incredibly well on the Coop list has been La Gloria Cubana. And if I had to give you the lowest score that I gave this year, it was for a limited release called Spirit of the Lady. It was atrocious, right? And I was so disappointed because the Spanish press, which was released last year by La Gloria Cubana, made my list. La Gloria's made the list many times. They're the one brand in general, I think, that's always been doing good stuff. And they kind of get a miss like that from General on that brand surprised me. But there were others. The CAO Vision didn't do well with us. The Partagas Decadus didn't do well with us. It was a disappointing year for them. In a year that they probably could have really shined, I think. I know that they have good tobacco. I know they make good cigars. General's better than what we saw this year. For whatever reason, something just didn't work right this year with them. And they need to fix it.
I'm trying to remember what this one was. Oh, I know what it was. Yes. Another one that I had on my list that I did like, I wanted to mention. Romeo y Juliet Eternal.
I have it. I've smoked it. Actually, I smoked one with Raphael when I was in Florida, and he gave me another one. So
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I want to try to pick up a couple more for review, but I did like it. I'd say, but Altadis is doing good stuff. I think Altadis is
doing it. Here's my only problem with them, right? You smoke like the regular Monte Cristo stuff, right? White label, platinum, the classic, the brown. I'll smoke them. Someone gives me one or whatever. I'm at an event. It's Altadis, whatever. Like it's not something I'd go out of my way. They're not bad, but they don't get me excited, right? But as soon as you go with any of their other stuff, Epic, AJ Fernandez, 35, the New York edition.
The New York edition almost won Cigar of the Year in 2012.
Oh my God, they're so good.
It was number 2 for me in 2012. It was an incredible cigar.
But they're not. The problem is they're not making those cigars. They're made by other people.
Oh no, they do make the New York. They do make the New York.
They do make that one.
They do make the New York, yeah. But the Epic,
yeah.
Yeah, but I also kind of look at that. They have the the Monte Cristo 1935 anniversary is a very good cigar. AJ's making that one. I think obviously they want to get into Nicaragua, so that they don't have a presence there right now.
Right.
At some point maybe they will, but I think they have a strong partnership with AJ and Plasencia out there. But I've always still kind of said I think the stuff they do in house has still been overall pretty good too. But
Mhm.
it's just some of that. Look, I'll say this: Monte Cristo White Label is a great cigar. I mean, I know what you're saying. It's not exciting. It's not. You're
It's
not
not
doing it
bad. It's just not like when you compare it to those other releases, it doesn't wow me.
right.
Those are like
But
wow.
yeah, I mean, but they've done some. I think they've done some creative things, like the 175 by H. Upman. I think you got to say, they did some really creative stuff with.
That one was pretty good.
Yeah, they did. So, but I for whatever reason I, I don't know. I think Raphael, when he got there, I'm not necessarily thinking he created better blends, but there's someone in there overseeing this stuff. And I think that's making a big difference. With General, I'm not sure they have that one person.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have these committees there. It seems it's not clear who's making all the decisions on final blends there. I'm sure there's someone, I just don't know who it is.
Right. Yeah, for me, when you talk about the big guys, aside from, we talk about, like General, Altadis, whatever. Well, I'm sorry. I keep getting caught on the. Now I think my camera's messed up. I keep getting caught on something down here, and I don't know what it is. It keeps moving the camera around. Put Drew Estate aside; they're kind of in their own category. Put Davidoff aside; they're in their own category. I feel that like Altadis in general are very similar. Out of the two most similar out of the big four. When I put General, the stuff that General's been working on and what Altadis has been working on, I think that just in a general sense, to me, and this is to me, you can disagree, I don't care.
Right.
I feel like Altadis has done a much better job as a whole than General has done. Just on the stuff that's come out, what I've tried, and just being like
this year has not been.
and then
I've been disappointed with them this year, General. I'll say that.
Just like they didn't really do anything this year that got me excited. I was like, I mean, I tried, I gave it a shot, but
yeah,
it's just, I don't know. This is not for me.
See, but General's focusing. Look, they're doing Sunday gravy cigars with Diesel. They're doing oil can cigars with CAO. Bento boxes with Punch, right?
Yeah.
They're doing. So they're pushing into some of this creative packaging, right? And kind of gimmicky on the gimmicky side.
Mhm.
On the other hand, Altadis, they're doing creative packaging on the classic side.
Right.
Like I looked what they did with St. Louis Ray this year, the Monte Cristo 1935s. They've done it, but they're not. Altadis ain't going down this. They're not creating, a beef stew cigar or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or but General's kind of seeming like they're going down this route. And I understand why they're trying to do it. They're trying to see if they could tap into this market. But I think they'd be much better off kind of really like I think when they do their classic releases, I think they've done much better. Hoyt of Monterey Black that came out this year, I thought was pretty good actually. So they have had some stuff I think that does work. I actually smoked that new Partagas, the Connecticut one. I thought that was really good as well.
Yeah.
So they were, but they're going down this other route. I was very disappointed with the Weller cigar. I just was. So
I didn't like it either.
it was disappointing. It just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same
yeah.
exact way. It
So,
was like,
yeah. So Altadis isn't really doing that. Drew Estate's a different animal, and Davidoff, again, I think when they do some of the creative packaging, it's very classic. So I don't think they're creating like a cigar in a box of Pop-Tarts or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, I have that idea, the Pop-Tart box cigar. No one better steal that.
Yeah.
Or
did you like my airport selfie with the Cinnabon? Did you see what I did there? I did that
Yeah,
for you.
yes, you did.
I did that for you.
Yes, you did. And I was like, yeah, there's a cigar that came out with that. Yeah, I hope you know that they.
Oh, I know. We talked about it.
Oh, dude, I saw a McDonald's one this week. I'm like, come on. Like,
You saw a cigar with a McDonald's style band?
it was like a McDonald's hamburger on it. Yeah, like the hamburger or something looked like. Not the hamburger. Mayor McCheese.
Grimace?
I don't know. It wasn't Grimace. It was like Mayor McCheese. It was called the Fatty Patty and Onion with onions.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know. If people like those cigars, and like I said, I'm okay with that if the cigar's good. As long as the
I,
cigar is
s-
good, that's what
I
I care
saw
about.
one with a Dunkin' Donuts style band and just
Yeah.
like smoking on it or
Yeah.
something like that.
But that's how I was saying it before the show. Like if someone sent me a press release with that, right? The answer is I'm not printing that press release and I'm not reviewing that cigar, not because I think the cigar is bad, right? And not because I'm not a fan of that marketing. It's because if Duncan did a cease and desist, then I've seen this happen. Companies then, well, you need to pull that down. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. Well, they could say, well, you're using the intellectual property on our permission. Like, okay, then fine, we won't do that. Like, anything that I deem, the only way I'll do it is if there was a Dunkin' Donuts cigar and Dunkin' Donuts commented in the press release. That would be the only way I would do it.
Right.
Yeah. So I just avoid. That's why if people ask me, I was asked this week on this question why I avoid it. Do I hate these? No, it's strictly a intellectual property thing. Why I don't want to get in the middle of that because that hurts me if I have to pull stuff down from Coop.
Yeah, and you never want to get involved in that situation.
And here's the other thing. I'll be honest. Like, let's say that was the only story I put up for the day, and I have to pull it down. Then my cigar publication streak is in jeopardy. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
You never
So
want to do
there's
that.
a lot of reasons for that. Yeah, it's not because I hate the company or anything like that. It's look, I talked to Eric on the Dojo Chico, and I didn't put that up. And Eric's one of my best friends. And it's not because, again, I can't risk that. I don't know what the deal is with that, and it's safer if I stayed away from that.
Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming JC Newman releases.
This was exciting to me. So do you know that 2 of those releases we reported on from the PCA trade show? I don't know if you knew that, but we got a little,
so. Yeah.
yeah. So and then one was a complete surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, JC has been doing some good stuff the last couple of years as a whole.
Yeah, I think they have. What a job they've done in the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Like the Yagua has been a really interesting release.
I thought the second release of the Iago was really good too. I thought it was much better than the first.
Oh, I have a whole box of them. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember lighting one up and I was just like, I remember in the beginning when I first had one, I was so skeptical because I'm like, wow, it's so different. But then you have it and you're like, it's good though.
They had to be dry box. There's no question. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were good. New American. We already talked about the American. I mean, you know how I feel about that.
Yep.
And, yeah, I mean, look, they've done a really good job the last couple of years. They've been really strong. You gave them a cigar of the year last year, and aside from like their cigars and the releases, they redid the factory. It's now open to the public. Just they've had a lot of good things going.
Yeah.
You just talk about JC as a whole. They've had a lot of good things going the last couple of years, and I just feel like their stock value has just gone up in general, which I think is great. And I think you're going to slowly start to see that reflect more in their releases and the performance and just everything they do.
Yeah.
I think they're on a good path.
I do too.
And they're doing really good with their marketing as well.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
Yeah, they have a great marketing team. And we deal with Adria, who's our point of contact, but the whole team there has been fantastic.
Yeah. Shout out to Adria over at JC Newman.
Yep.
She is a rock star. She really is.
Yeah, there's a larger team, and I see the effort they all put in, and you really see they're doing some nice things.
I'm getting to that point where like it's getting a little tight right here. I'm like an inch out from the band, maybe like half inch out from the band.
Oh, I'm loving this, the connoisseur.
The flavor's great. It's just
getting that tight.
Typical Cubans, but it's good. I think this box is from 2019 too. So it's been sitting for a few years. They had definitely a lot of light, thin plume on it before I got it going. Fantastic. And again, this is where Cuban cigars, like either they're good or they're not. This is good. I wish the draw was a little better.
Yeah.
However, it's not to a point where it's unsmokable. I can get through it and still enjoy the flavor of the tobacco. It's very good. I've always liked the Partagas stuff. Serie E number 2, the Serie D number 4 are 2 of my favorites.
Yep.
Love those. Love them a lot. Monte Cristo number 2s. The Cohiba, the Medio Siglo, the short ones. They we both seem to have this like little cough that we're fighting through too. It's funny.
Yeah, well, mine's dry throat because it's the heat's been on in here.
Yeah, me too. Mine's
Yeah.
just dryness.
Yeah, mine's dryness. I don't have a cough, but it's been the humidity's very low here right now too.
And stupid me didn't grab a water before I sat down, so
Yeah.
I've just been like trying to.
I mean, I think the humidity in here this morning was 40%.
Yeah,
is dry for
it's
me, yeah.
dry. The heater's on.
Yeah.
I didn't grab a water. I did it to
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, the Medio Siglos are good.
I
The Siglo 3 is really good from Cohiba.
Yeah.
You know, as long as they're rolled right.
Look, I think Juan Lopez is out of Cuba are some of the best one. One of my favorite brands out there is the Juan Lopez. That's true Cuban boutique brand that they have.
You know what I hear a lot of people, I haven't had them myself, but a couple of my Habano smoking friends who are regulars in the Habano scene, I keep hearing people mention Sancho Panza.
Very good. They're very good.
Yeah, I haven't had any myself yet, and I'm like eager to get a box from my supplier that I have. But Sancho Panza, I keep hearing a lot of good things about out of Cuba.
It's a very good brand out of Cuba. Yeah, I agree. I definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's next time I do a Cuban order, I'm gonna
Yep.
probably throw
Yep.
those on the list.
Yeah, I would.
Another big one that we didn't get to yet, the $96 million tax hike has been iced for now. Thoughts?
Yeah, I have a. So we obviously know the news on that, right, Matt? But so I have two comments to make on that. Okay, and they're
Mhm.
positive comments for the most part. Okay. First up is the trade associations wasted no time in getting that news out to anybody. We didn't have to wait a week. Like
Mhm.
those were out like within the hour. Okay. It's the same thing I said. I think it's great we promote our wins, but we need to also treat our losses with the same sense of urgency, right?
Mhm.
So I think they did a good job. And I thought the communication that they wrote was much better this time than the first time. And I love the messaging at the end where they basically said that this is an ongoing fight and we need people to continue to support the initiatives and the call to actions. And I think PCA needs to continue to drive that home over the next few months. Don't let people forget about this right now, right? Because this piece could make its way back in at some point. So, but it was the biggest win for the cigar industry of the year. This was the biggest threat that was being facing the industry, and the industry gets a win here. We could argue who PCA also took a lot of credit, so good for them as well. I mean, if they did stuff and they feel it was contribute, I think there were other factors besides PCA that went into this, just so you know. But again, they told people this is what we did. Good job by PCA there. So, not much I can critique that on.
Yeah, and it's people who pay into the Premium Cigar Association.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that our money has gone to successful victories within the courtroom.
Yeah. Now, I have heard some, and this is not Will Cooper's opinion. Why is PCA spending money going to the TAA and now I guess it's and I guess I got one today on the Big Smoke. I can't answer that. I don't know what the funding mechanisms were for that, so it's not fair for me to answer. But people are, but the optics didn't look good with that, especially after they were calling for money. They were doing a GoFundMe and stuff like that. So the optics didn't look good. I mean, I think that's where they have to be. That's where the transparency does need to get a little better with that, because you're talking money and people are sensitive. And again, this isn't me talking, because there may be a bigger strategic initiative I'm not aware of. But again, the optics didn't look good, is what I'm going to say. So because people are asking me, I said, well, you need to contact them. I'm not gonna make a big deal about it, but the optics didn't look good on that.
I can understand why some people might be confused, but you got to remember too, the PCA, they got to be around as many places as they can.
Yeah. Well, the TAA, that's a joke, right? Let's be real. That's not a policy organization. That is that trip to Casa de Campo is a buying event and a party event. That there's not policies being done there.
Right.
So now maybe they're educating people on policy. That's a different story. If they're there to educate, then it's a valid reason.
I'm going to assume that like religious groups that go door to door trying to spread the word, PCA kind of does that solicitation as well. where it's like, we're not here to fight any fight,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
Yeah.
just
And maybe,
just letting you know what we're
yeah.
doing so
Yeah.
that you're aware,
Yeah.
because
I
this
think that's
affects you
what just,
too.
right. I think that's where you put it in your newsletter. I mean, maybe it was said on one of the PCA podcasts and stuff. So again, I'm not saying no, but this is, I think the point is, they're doing a good job with transparency. You don't want to get people, when it comes to money though, people get very funny about that. So,
Right.
so that's why I just kind of say that with not to critique them, but the optics didn't look good. So certainly something they should think about, going forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, this year was that. Last year was a
Yeah,
substantial.
they could have paid their own
equivalence.
way to go too. So who knows? That's totally. And if they did, they have every right to go.
We don't have all the facts,
We don't have all the facts, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this year it was the tax thing. Last year was substantial equivalence.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
mean, there's
And
been
warning
some
labels. Yeah.
in warning labels as well.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple of big victories.
Look, it's a victory. You can't argue that this is not a. I mean,
A win is a win.
A win is a win, but this didn't look good about a few weeks ago.
No, it didn't.
It didn't. So I think there was some things that happened in I think the bigger issue is that this whole Build Back Better Act, it doesn't have the support in Congress that I think a lot of people thought it did.
No.
I think there's a lot of people questioning this one right now. And I think that may have been a reason why this fell out. I'm not sure. I think certainly PCA did their part, and they did a good job with a call to action. They had the international summit and stuff like that. So I'm not saying they didn't help, but I think ultimately there were other factors that also played into this that we benefited from.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the politics of it, just on what I read, what I hear, and what I see. Yeah, the Build Back Better plan doesn't look like it had a real smooth ride through.
No,
it went through, but obviously there's things like this and God knows what else that we're not even paying attention to.
Yeah.
A lot of it as well.
Yeah.
So to see this come out of it is good, but I think you're right. I think there's also things that contributed to that too, as probably did for a lot of things that didn't go through with it.
Yeah.
I went through, but at the same time, I know it was not an easy ride.
Yeah.
They had a lot of issues with that, getting that passed through.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think our organizations did what, at least they met my expectations on what they needed to do. So I'm going to say good job by them. As far as the communication goes, I'm not going to complain if they communicate something quickly. I just wish they do it consistently. And I like the fact that they are pushing the fact that we need to keep our foot on the gas with this. So good job there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that, they've done some good things. I hope they keep it up, keep moving forward with it. That's what we want to see.
Yep.
Policy stuff they've done a good job with. Now let's just see them, improve the trade show a little bit, get some people back, raise some more money, better attendance, better shopping from the retailers, manufacturers selling. That's what we want to see as a whole. So I would say it's not the end of the year. We're creeping close. I think it's appropriate. We can start to talk about it. At this point, our consensus I would say at least my consensus of the PCA through the good and bad this year.
Yeah.
I think they're closing out on a good note.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good, and it should give them some momentum.
Yeah.
Rolling into 2022.
Yep.
They got some good footing. They have some good people. I know there's people out there who are very still skeptical of the PCA and the trade show or just whatever it is, but you can't deny that they've done a good job so far.
Yeah.
And you hope it just keeps carrying through to next year.
I feel more confident with the leadership we've had in the PCA than I have in the 11 years I'm doing Cigar Crew.
Yep.
And not because Scott Pierce comes on my podcast or your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think they're doing a lot of the right things here.
But it's not even just him. It's they got Glenn Loop, they got Josh.
Yeah, they did.
Some great stuff.
They're all working very hard. Yeah. If I had to say the one area I'm disappointed with them is flavors. I think they need to have. I mean, here's the thing. To me, they should have been like. This should have been full. This should have been like. I think the attack on flavors is like an attack on Pearl Harbor, and they needed to respond with such an attack. I don't think they've done that. That's the one thing I think they're walking a line with that one. They're focusing on the characterizing flavors. And I think they need to take on the flavored thing much bigger. That's just my opinion. I don't feel that's the one area I'd kind of say I'd like to see Wim work on. But
Yeah,
pluses outweigh the minuses this year, no question about it.
I mean, we had Booth on the show this week, which was a surprisingly tame episode from Matt Booth. But
yes,
but yeah, we talked about it too, and and we talked about the news of the week was Pasadena, California had passed a flavored tobacco ban, and it was like, look, again, it's not just because flavored stuff got banned. Well, I don't smoke that, so that doesn't concern me. Don't give them anything because they're just gonna keep coming for it.
Was there ever a call to action in Pasadena, California on this stuff? Was my question.
Yeah, that I don't know.
So that's where I'm going. And if you let this is going to snowball like Tobacco 21 did, when no one said Tobacco 21 was going to happen at a nationwide level, when Hawaii did in 2015. I remember that.
And then who was it that someone proposed to try to push it to 25? And I was like, whoa. And that
Hawaii. Someone again in Hawaii. Yeah, then it was
Hawaii. It was Hawaii.
And oh, by the way, Bear and I predicted that. Just we actually told Glenn Loop it was going to happen, and it hasn't gotten the momentum yet. But give it time. Give it time.
And you think tobacco goes up to 25?
Where I think there's going to be something will happen in the next 3 or 4 years with it.
Now, who passed? There was there's one thing that got passed somewhere where, oh, it was right here in my backyard. It was in Brookline, Massachusetts, a very affluent town. Where it was changed to anyone born after the year 2000 could not buy tobacco products regardless of age.
There you go. It's prohibition. And the flavor thing is a prohibition move. That's why I'm very concerned about things. So let me put a hypothetical question out there. What do you think our organizations would do is if the FDA came to the leadership of our organizations and said, guys, we're going to let you off the hook with regulation, like the deeming rule, but you got to raise tobacco to 25. How much would that? I believe the industry would agree to that in a heartbeat.
If they knew that they would get left alone, but they lose four age groups.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they would do it in a heartbeat. And here's the thing. I think it would be a big mistake, right? Because
you're missing the bigger picture.
What happens at 27? What if they go? Then what happens if they do this thing like you're saying, where they ban it from everyone from a certain age, and then they progressively make it so they increase the age where you have prohibition, like so they can increase.
So basically, the way that's written, even at some point when those people are like 40 years old, it's like, well, you were born in 2001, so you can't have it.
You've just implemented prohibition.
Dude, I'm a 40-year-old man. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Oh, you can't have it. Sorry. But my 55-year-old brother can have it. Yep. Yeah. He was born in the 90s.
Yeah.
He can have it.
Exactly. And Dan said you'll never be left alone on this stuff. He's 100%. The NRA's taken that position, and look, I'm not a fan of the NRA in a lot of things, but I understand why they do that. They take and I think we haven't taken a hardline position because we had so many beatings we've taken right over the years. I think. Yeah. And because look, we had a lot of losses in the last decade. It's only the last couple of years where things have started to swing around.
Yeah, I know, and it's it's been a rough ride the last couple of years, and
and one thing we should say a good thing about PCA too, they've actually been able to reverse. That's not a lot, but there's been some smoking bans they've either reversed or have really fought off as well. And that's always a good thing is if you stop that piece as well because. Smoke, if you could loosen up some of these smoking restrictions and stuff, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, look at places like Boston, New York,
San Francisco. I was just there.
Boston's got one cigar lounge. New York has a handful.
Yeah,
but not as many as I think New York City should have.
No, totally not. San Francisco has one.
San Francisco has one.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
The old age of not even just like a shop, but like the nice lounges.
Yeah.
Like where
exactly.
you go to the bar.
Exactly.
And, like think like the Empire in Miami, right?
Yeah.
We've both been there. Great place.
Right.
If you ever go to Miami, you got to go down
I haven't.
Um,
I'm going. I'm going to be in Miami soon. Actually, I'm going to try to get there. I'm going to be there later this month. So
yeah, but like think of Empire, right? Where else do you see that outside of Florida? In like,
true. Yeah.
a couple other places, right?
Yeah.
You don't. It's a shame. It's not because like no one wants to open a business. It's because they can't.
Yep.
And unfortunately, you take it's part of the soul. It's part of the soul of the industry.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle. Forget about the industry. Even like
Yep.
just for people not even in the industry, the consumer, like it's the lifestyle. It's a spirit of like going to a
Yep.
lounge to hang out, just like
Yep.
do your thing. And it's
Yep.
just like you give them an inch, they're gonna come back for the mile.
Yeah.
They're gonna come back.
We
And then when
see
they take the mile, they're gonna come back for the next mile.
we saw it with the smoking bans. They already did it, right? So what will happen originally? It was like we want to segregate seating, right? And then we said, well, we don't want smokers indoors anymore. So what happens? Restaurants and bars create these outdoor patios. And then what happens after that? Well, we can't allow smoking in them either. So then you have areas outside, like where you can smoke outside. Then it's like, outside of the patio areas. And then what happens is, no, you got to be 25 feet away. It never ends. And Dan just said it, you will never be left alone. These compromises do not work.
No,
I mean, yeah, it does not work.
no, you can't. You can't compromise with them because it's never gonna.
Yep,
You're
you
never gonna
can't.
win.
You can't.
And even a compromise is a loss
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, yeah. So
Because you're
it's
still giving them something that they can build on later.
exactly.
And unfortunately, that's just the way it's going right now. And
Yep.
but it sucks. It just does. It just sucks.
Yep. It does. It's terrible.
Nobody talks about nobody talks about how many people die from drinking and driving incidents every year. Not that I'm saying they should take away alcohol, but it's like
Yep.
you talk about that and it's like, well, we're not really talking about that.
No, exactly.
You talk about smoking, and you lump it in with a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Cigarettes, all of it. There's no distinction. And now we live in a world where they're coming after tobacco, but marijuana will be fully federally legalized probably sometime soon.
I agree. It's it's only a matter of time.
Marijuana is going to be something that someday you'll tell you. I was watching what's his name? Tom Segura, the comedian, and he was telling this joke about like telling his kids someday about like buying. He'd be like, oh, when I used to buy marijuana, I almost died. And my son will say to me, why? Was 7-Eleven on fire? Well, that's the reality.
Right.
Eventually, there won't even be dispensaries because we won't need a dispensary. Just walk in. Can I get a box of the pre-rolled joints?
Right,
Cool.
right. Exactly.
Just as, you know what I mean? Like that's just what the world's coming to.
Yeah.
But but cigarettes, no, I can't have cigarettes. But you can
No,
have
I can't have
pot.
that. Exactly.
It's a crazy time.
Yep.
Think about, especially you're older than me. Think about in your lifetime, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s.
Yeah.
You got caught with like one joint, like you were looking at jail time. But
Right.
You could smoke your heart out at a restaurant, bar, smoke a whole carton if you wanted to. Now, you can't smoke anywhere. But like if the cops pull you over and you have a couple of joints on the front seat, they're like, oh, looks good. All right.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
It's just crazy how the world changes.
It's true.
All right, Coop. I think we're getting towards the end of this Spare Notes episode.
I agree. Yeah, I think we covered a lot today.
We did. We definitely crammed a lot in a even shorter amount of time than we normally do.
Yep.
Next week I got Reinhard coming on from Light 'em Up World, and now from Marifel. The new vice president of sales. So stay tuned for that. After that, we have the legend, Mr. Fred Rui, formerly of Nomad Cigars. And then after that, it's Thanksgiving. We have no guest. But to start off December, we have Charlie Minato from Halffield.com. He's going to sit down and talk
cool.
to us.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. I knew you guys would cook up eventually.
Yeah, so me and Charlie are gonna sit down, have a little conversation about some
Yep.
media stuff, and
Yep.
probably get into reviews and stuff like that, and rankings and
Yep.
ratings, especially going towards the end of the year. Kind of talk about what he feels is hot, what they didn't feel was hot. I think that'll be an interesting conversation. What do you have coming up?
Okay, so Tuesday, we have a huge week coming up, right? Monday, we have Primetime Jukebox episode 55. Dave Burke and I, we just recorded it right before this show. We're doing an album archaeology on Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, which is an iconic album. So we had a lot of fun doing that show. So that's going to air Monday night. On Tuesday night, we have Miguel Shodell and Hector Alfonso from Espinosa Cigars, Miguel Shodell from Crown Heads, on special edition 110. And we're doing our annual baseball recap of the year. So that will happen on Tuesday. On Wednesday,
Damn.
on Wednesday, Ben Lee and I will have an edition of the Smoking Syndicate. We will be smoking the Casa Magna Colorado on that one. And on Thursday, we have the regular primetime episode 209. We have Rafael Nodal from Tobacco USA and Aging Room. And then one last thing is we're not doing a show Friday. We're recording Jukebox next Saturday. And I only mention this because we're going to be recording the Christmas episode. And Fred Rui will be our guest for Christmas music we'll be talking about. So it won't be cigars as much as we'll be doing specifically. He comes onto that show every year to do the Christmas music show. So, and don't throw darts at me. We need to get the Christmas music show done so people have time to listen to it. There's only like a short window we have to do this, right? Because once December 25th comes around, no one downloads this show until next year. So we want to give people time, a chance to listen to it. So
Absolutely,
that's
as you should.
So yeah, I'm one. Look, I don't like seeing Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving either. We have to do it. If you have the choice we're telling people we have no problem if you want to wait to watch that show until the day after Thanksgiving. So very busy week, and December is actually kind of. I'm actually just gonna get in the process of booking December guests because we really got to start doing that. So stay tuned for that.
I think I'm already booked into January next year. I gotta get back on that horse.
Yeah, we were booked, like we had about 3 months of bookings, and we kind of have now down to like less than a month. So it's time to prime the pump on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
well, guys, I want to end it there. I want to thank you guys for watching and listening at home.
Yep.
Don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere podcasts can be found, as well as our YouTube page and our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yep.
And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Take care, everybody.